morning. So I actually wasn't planning on doing sunrise this morning. It was looking a bit meh. I was still planning on coming out this morning and focusing on long exposure stuff, which I probably will do after this here. But I kind of had checked the weather forecast last night and it looked like there was a reasonable chance. Now, right above me, pretty much cloud cover, but where the sun's going to be rising, you can kind of see out here. Looks reasonably okay, so I thought, why not give it a go? I was actually running here yesterday. I'm training for the Causeway Coast Marathon. And one of the things I like about running, or even being out on the bike, as well as obviously the fitness aspect, is it serves as a good way to do some additional recon missions. And yesterday I was actually in the process of looking for just some areas of interest that may work for really super long exposure photography. So kind of found a few of those and thought I would come back this morning and try. And as I said earlier, I wasn't planning on doing sunrise because this time of year out here in the Causeway isn't great for sunrise, just because of its position. Another month and then we're in business. So I kind of thought, well, I'll give it a go. There might be some nice reflective light this morning, so that's what we're going to go down and do this morning. Just see whether initially there's anything going on from a sunrise perspective. But the main focus of today, I think, is going to be long exposure. Now, very windy. Not at the moment, because of course I'm helped by this big bit of rock. But as soon as I come round that headland there, it's going to be windy. And of course, because I'm looking to do super long exposure stuff, it may not work, so it all depends on where I can get hunkered down as well. But beautiful morning to be out. Here comes the wind. So just very, very quickly, I've actually been shooting for about 10-15 minutes. As is always the case, image is more important than the vlog, sorry about that. But we just now, it's kind of dissipated a bit now. We just had some really lovely reflective light. So this time of year, the sun rises kind of behind the stacks here, so you don't get any direct light kind of coming through, and you certainly don't see the sun on the horizon at this time of the year. And of course, a lot of people will then avoid areas because they don't get to see the sun. But trust me, especially when there's a little bit of cloud cover, you just get some of that lovely reflective light as well. Let me just look, actually, miles away in the complete opposite direction of where the sun is rising. 2 minutes. So basically this is where the sun is rising and this is where I'm currently pointed. But if I just sweep you around a little bit, holding onto my tripod because it's very, very windy. And down here what you get as well is obviously lots and lots and lots of little puddles, which will take on some of that reflective light as well. Don't just come to places where you can see the sunrise on the horizon or the sunset on the horizon. Always be thinking, are we going to get any reflective light above? And as you can see, we are. And I think even though we've got plenty of shadows in this image, it actually does make for quite a pleasant scene. So at the moment I'm shooting in a vertical composition. Haven't got any ND grad on at the moment. It's dark enough. I have a soft edge grad, the 2-stop soft edge grad, just to keep some of those details in the sky. Probably going to have to give it a bit of a wipe because I see there's a little bit of spray and a little bit of rain in the air as well. But most of that phenomenal color that we had about 7 or 8 minutes ago has now dissipated, so that's why I'm kind of taking my time a little bit. The other thing that you have here is just pointing out towards the sea. Again, some nice images can be made as the causeway sweeps round to the right. Some really, on a calmer day, calm from a wind perspective especially, a really long exposure here can work really, really well. One thing you've got to be mindful of is these stones are like sheets of ice, 24/7, 365 days of the year. So it can make for some interesting bimbles down. I really am holding onto my tripod here because we're in the kind of bowl of the wind here. So I've actually brought myself, well, I've actually just really turned around. Let me just take you back here. I mean, it's just gorgeous. This is obviously where things get a little bit interesting from a calming point of view, because do you point yourself this way where there's gorgeous color in the sky? Do you point yourself this way where there's gorgeous color in the sky? Oh, or do you just stand and take it in? It's kind of what I'm doing at the moment because it's just beautiful. It's also very, very, very windy. So of course I'm beautiful. You can see why this place gets hundreds of thousands of visitors a year. It is just to die for. Right, I think I'm going to point myself back this way again and see whether we can get this particular scene. Still in a vertical composition. I've actually removed the grad. I'm currently using, I think I've talked about this before, but I'm currently using a resin grad, and I just find the resin grads just so difficult to keep clean. So I've got the Firecrest 4-stop ND in there, and I'm shooting bracketed exposures. Now again, what I'm looking for here in the foreground is some interesting, so this little puddle which takes on a bit of that light, and rather than there just being sweeping waves through the mid frame of the scene, you know, obviously we've got these two lumps of rock here which is creating some nice patterns as the waves wash in and out over, and then of course we have the stack, the needle. Just a stunning part of the world. If I kind of raise myself up a little bit, I'm also interested in how the waves kind of crash over this bit of rock as well, because what it's giving us is some nice sort of leftover reflections as the rocks get wet. So once again, proof that you don't need to see the sun in your frame to get some beautiful light all around. So say bracketed exposures, and what I like to check when I'm doing my bracketed exposures is obviously in the negative exposure, the -1 stop and the +1 stop, I might be seeing some blown highlights, but for my base exposure I'm trying not to blow any highlights at all in that, and clip as little shadows as possible as well, because I want as many of those mid-range tones to build on, and hopefully maybe even be able to just build on 2 exposures from this. So vertical composition, shooting at f14, 4 seconds as my base exposure. It's getting a little bit lighter now, so I'm just going to bring that back down to 3. And once again, just like before, I'm kind of watching the waves. So watch, so I'm firing my exposure now, because obviously that first exposure is actually going to give me some nice detail in those rocks as that wave's passing over. And then once I've finished taking my exposures, I'll check the histogram and make sure that I'm not clipping too many shadows or blowing too many highlights. That was close. As I was switching off the video on this, big gust of wind came through, and this bad boy almost went for a swim. Woo! That was far too close for comfort. So it's now 7:30 in the morning. Sun has been up for about an hour and 10 minutes or so, and the light just keeps coming and going. Now, I really would love to get further out on those rocks, but it is absolutely more slippy than a slippy thing. So I'm utilizing the zoom on the 18-135. I always say look on the horizon. I'm not sure whether you can see it, but just here there's a little bit of, I don't know whether it's maybe a bit of rain, bit of moisture in the atmosphere, but it's just creating just a little bit of depth in the background of the image rather than it just being kind of nothingness. Shooting on the 4-stop, still without grad, and shooting bracketed exposures. I'm hoping to get away with only needing to blend 2 of those exposures together. I think I will be able to. Just one to bring out some of the details here in the foreground, where we have like a purple sheen with all the seaweed kind of, and it's glinting off the sun. The sun is now kind of almost rising up from behind the cliff face. So I just really like that little bit of movement. Shooting 3 exposures, probably only going to use 2, 4-stop. And the nice thing about it is as well, because the light is starting to improve, my exposures are actually down to about half a second, a quarter of a second. And I like that because it keeps that energy in the waves. So much for my long exposure thing this morning. This has actually been rather pleasant. Beautiful, beautiful morning. So I think I'm probably going to leave the vlog here. Now I'm going to be here, I would say, for a good couple of hours. But I really want to now just get my mind into looking for some locations for some long exposure stuff, as I said at the beginning. So this vlog ended up being nothing about long exposure because obviously the conditions kind of meant it actually was quite nice shooting here for sunrise. So I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to carry on shooting as I always do when I come to a location, even though I've got some of the shots that, you know, I think rather than just dander on home, I'm going to stay here. I have customary orange in the pocket, drink in the bag. Beautiful. And I say it's now about 8 a.m. I've been here since just before 6. Not another soul. Absolutely beautiful. Challenging conditions, as it always is, but absolutely beautiful. Gorgeous. Right, I hope you enjoyed this. As always, any comments, let me know. Always try to reply to those. And we'll catch up soon, but from the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. See you later. Bye-bye.